Right, let's talk about D&D combat. You know, that thing where you roll dice and pretend to hit imaginary monsters? Yeah, turns out it can get a bit dull sometimes. Shocking, I know. But fear not, because today we're going to spice things up with 3 homebrew rules that'll make your combats more dynamic. And by dynamic, I don't mean your wizard will suddenly start doing backflips, unless that's what you're into, I suppose. These aren't your run-of-the-mill homebrew rules, mind you. No, roll a d4 to see how impressive your war cry is here. We're talking proper game changers that'll turn your average sword swinging into the stuff of legend. Or at least make it slightly more interesting than watching paint dry. So, grab some food and settle in. Who knows, by the end of this video, your next combat might just be marginally more exciting than your last trip to the dentist. Wouldn't that be nice? Also, I'm not sure if I've stolen these by accident. I've played a lot of games. Alright, first up we have momentum shifts. Because nothing says dynamic combat quite like a system that makes your dice rolls have consequences beyond just hitting or missing. Here's how it works. After 3 consecutive hits, you gain momentum. This gives you a +1 to attack rolls. After 3 consecutive misses, you gain desperation. This gives you a +1 to damage rolls. These can stack up to 3 times. So yes, you could be at +3 to hit, or +3 to damage. Momentum resets when you miss. Desperation when you hit. It's like a very violent game of snakes and ladders. Why is this cool? Well, it represents the highs and lows of battle. You're either on a roll, literally, or you're due for a comeback. Plus, it gives your players something to think about beyond, I attack again. Of course, this applies to enemies too. So when that goblin chief suddenly gets a +3 to hit, your players might start to sweat a little, or a lot. Depends on how sadistic you are as a DM, really. Next up, environmental synergy. Because why have elaborate battle maps if you're just going to ignore everything except the squares your miniatures are standing on? Here's the deal. As a bonus action, a player can tag an environmental feature. Maybe they point out that chandelier or mention those conveniently placed barrels. The next player to use that feature in an attack gets advantage and some extra damage. For example, your rogue could tag a chandelier, then your fighter could shoot it down for some area damage. This rule encourages your players to actually pay attention to their surroundings. Novel concept, I know. It also promotes teamwork, because now your players have a reason to set each other up for cool moves. Just be prepared for your carefully crafted dungeon to be systematically dismantled, as your players gleefully swing from curtains and topple statues. It's like giving toddlers energy drinks and letting them loose in a china shop, but with swords. Last but not least, we have cinematic actions. For when you want your combat to feel less like a turn-based strategy game and more like a Hollywood blockbuster, here's how it goes. Once per combat, a player can declare they're attempting a cinematic action. They describe an epic move. The more over the top, the better. They roll a d20. On an 11 or higher, it succeeds spectacularly. On a 10 or lower, it fails, but they get inspiration. Because in D&D, as in life, we learn more from our failures. Or at least that's what we tell ourselves to feel better. This rule lets your players attempt those crazy stunts they've always dreamed of. Want to swing on a chandelier, kick a goblin in the face, and land on the back of a wyvern? Now you can try. Will it work? Who knows? But it'll be fun to watch. Just be prepared for your players to start every sentence with, "Wouldn't it be cool if..." And remember, what's good for the player is good for the DM. So when your big bad evil guy attempts a cinematic action, your players will know things just got real. Now, before you rush off to completely overhaul your game, here are a few tips to keep you from turning your carefully balanced campaign into a chaotic mess. Not that there's anything wrong with a chaotic mess, mind you. Start with one rule at a time. I know, they're all brilliant and you want to use them all immediately. But trust me, your players will appreciate not having to learn 3 new systems, while also trying to remember which end of the sword to hold. Communicate clearly with your players. Explain the new rules, preferably before they're in the middle of being mauled by a pack of dire wolves. Just a thought. Be open to adjustments. Maybe momentum shifts are making your barbarian a little too unstoppable. Or maybe environmental synergy is turning every battle into a game of the floor is lava. Don't be afraid to tweak things. Remember, these rules apply to enemies too, unless you want your players to breeze through every encounter like they're swatting flies. Most importantly, make sure everyone's having fun. If these rules are causing more headaches than excitement, it's okay to scrap them. Your sanity as a DM is worth more than any homebrew rule. Probably. Will these rules potentially cause your players to attempt increasingly ridiculous stunts that make you question your life choices? Absolutely. But hey, that's half the fun of D&D, right? So give these rules a shot, and who knows, your next battle might just be the stuff of legend. Or, at least, a funny story to tell at your next game night. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a chandelier to swing from and a dragon to dramatically monologue at. Wish me luck.